About 6 years ago, I was in China, and this was during a time when you could say I was lost. I didn't really know what to do, and the only thing I really had going for me, the only thing I had in my life that I could rely on was the gym. So that became my obsession. Every time things weren't going the way I wanted them to, or which was basically every day, the gym was my escape. That's where I'd go to unwind and work out stress and all that stuff. So that's what I had going for me right before I started Bold and Determined, right before I moved to China. And when I was in China, one of my first months in China, where I was basically just obsessed with the gym and making bold and determined work, I got a comment one day from this bodybuilder who I knew was serious just from the way he talked. He commented on an article about how to reach the alpha state in bodybuilding training. It was an article about Vince Gironda. That's not the point, though. The commenter was a guy named John Doe Bodybuilding, who I'm standing here with right now. And little did I know, this was 6 years ago, little did I know that John Doe Bodybuilding would become one of my business partners and one of my good friends. So please welcome John Doe Bodybuilding to the show.
What's up, everybody? John with JohnDoeBodybuilding.com. Good to be out here in Las Vegas. A little warmer out here than I'm used to this time of year, but it's it's nice. A lot of good energy. A little more coffee than I've had today than normal. So bear with me here. But Victor, our stories are pretty linear. I didn't move as far away as Victor did. But I went through something similar, at a young age. I didn't take the route most people took. At 19 years old, I packed my car with some clothes and a few other personal belongings and moved almost 1,000 miles away, not knowing what I was going to do. It became a journey. It became an adventure. I started off as a construction worker, and I was lonely. I was living in a town with, over 1 million people. I didn't know a soul, no friends, no family. And I was already into bodybuilding, but that is really what made me fall more in love with bodybuilding, was because at the end of the day, all you have is you, okay? Regardless of what a lot of you think, you have yourself, so you might as well take care of it. So respect yourself, and if you meet anyone that can't respect themselves, they're not going to respect anybody else. So with that being said, that's when I became more heavily involved in bodybuilding. I did my first competition. And I lived, ate and breathed bodybuilding. So that's kind of my background. So our stories, very similar.
Now, I agree with you when you say that bodybuilding is about respect. It's about respect for body. But it doesn't start out that way. It starts out as something else. It evolves into respect. That's what it becomes. At first, it's something different. It's more like you do it out of anger, or you do it out of sadness.
You're pushing life back.
Or you do it out of depression, or you do it as a way to fight back. You do it because you don't have another option. It's either that or there's no other option. That's why you start bodybuilding.
Right. It's the simplest way that someone that's a teenager or even older than that can start pushing back at life with their own two hands and create something. So when I didn't know a thing about building muscle, all I knew is they did push-ups in the military, and push-ups were supposed to build your chest. So I dropped down to the ground one day in my bedroom and I started just knocking out push-ups. And, I didn't realize at the time, I didn't look at it this way, but every time I pushed myself up off the ground, I was pushing life back. And I was saying, you know what? I want to be somebody. I want to be somebody great. And this is a way that you can start, that any you can start. Regardless of, most limitations, almost any limitations you have, you can push life back right now. And then once you build that foundation, like Victor said, that's what gives you the confidence. That's what gives you the respect. You can really transform your character into somebody that you want to be. I mean, pick something in your head out that like somebody you want to be and work towards that goal or that dream. And that's how it started.
Bodybuilding teaches you how to build things. It teaches you can transfer the lessons you learn from building your body into building anything. You can learn to build a business from building your body. When I started building my body, I was 130 pounds, 6'2", 130 pounds. skinny twig. We were talking about this today. We were talking about how people accuse us of having good genetics. And I personally don't have good genetics. I laugh when people say, oh, you were just born with good genetics. And I think, no, I wasn't born with good genetics. I've spent 10 years, countless hours, sweating in the gym, pushing out the extra rep, working out my frustrations. And that's the true reason that I have built a body. I'm not really into bodybuilding. That's just a fib. I like to go there because I like to get out aggression. That's the only healthy way that I can get out aggression, is to go and push the weights. Now, of course, it evolves after time. It evolved into something more, into something like, you start to see your body as a sculpture. But at first I didn't. I just wanted to get bigger and stronger and lift heavier weights. After time, for me, that's when I started looking at the full picture. When you started going to the gym, what was your reason? Were you looking at your body like a sculpture, or were you going just to lift, just because you had to? Why did you start lifting?
Well, my first real reason to start lifting was I never really fit in. I think people knew who I was in high school. I mean, but I wasn't the kind of guy that really took off with, really academically or even involved with school events. I wasn't the kind of guy you'd see at, football games, dances. I was turned off of sports at a really young age just because I had a lot of coaches that just didn't give me any playing time. I think coaches that just place way too much emphasis on winning at too young of an age for kids. So by the time I got to middle school or my first year in high school, I was really turned off of team sports. I took off more into things like snowboarding, mountain biking, things of that nature, and then eventually weights. And then when I realized, to answer your question, your original question, when I realized I started doing something with my own two hands and people started noticing me. They might not have liked me, they might not have known me personally, but they noticed who I was. And then I had football players at school asking me, what are you doing? I mean, I can remember showing up at a house party one time, kind of feeling out of place at first. I said, man, screw it. I show up at a house party in a wife beater. I didn't touch a beer, just showed up my wife beater. And the whole football team flocked me and they're like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? And it was then that I'm like, you know what? I never needed, team things. And I'm a one-man army, and that's the way it started. And it just kept building from there. And the last thing I'm going to say before I turn it back to Victor, like Victor said, businesses and other hardships in life can all come from bodybuilding, establishing those roots. So, okay, when you're in the gym and you hit a plateau in the gym, what do? You find a way to work through it. When he hits a plateau with something that's wrong with a computer or something that he's trying to do, he works his way through it. He doesn't throw the towel in. He doesn't give up. And until you've exhausted every resource possible, you have no reason to be mad about anything in life. All right? You can't be mad at yourself if you didn't use every resource. That's what bodybuilding does for you. That's what it does. It defines your character. You become the guy that when you go out and you talk to one chick and she says no and tries to make you feel stupid, I got 3 more lined up right around the corner. That's what, in a nutshell.
I look at bodybuilding as more of a problem to solve. As anybody who's read my book, New World Runner, knows, I love problems. A person without a problem to solve is like a German Shepherd without work to do. And as anybody who's read New World Runner knows, I love to build things. So I look at bodybuilding as a way to build things and solve problems at the same time. I like to think, okay, what can I do in the gym that's going to actually work? What's actually going to make my arms bigger? What's actually going to make me stronger? What supplements can I take that are actually going to work? Because I've tried everything and most of the stuff doesn't work. But that's part of the fun, is getting through all of the stuff that doesn't work and or learning on your own, or figuring out your own body, figuring out what actually works for you, and actually getting to know yourself, to learn about who you are truly. That's what bodybuilding is. It's a way to learn about yourself and to figure out who you are.
Yeah, when in relation to growing and getting results, I get a lot of questions pertaining to supplements and pertaining to performance enhancement. By performance enhancement, I mean steroids, human growth hormone, insulin, and SARMs. SARMs being the latest, hottest topic or subject lately. Guys, the diet is always, it comes first, all right? Everything else is secondary to the diet. And to be honest with you, I've seen more natural physiques that impressed me than guys that were using, boatloads of stuff. And most of them are just wasting their money. Guys are trying to use it as a quick fix for a shitty diet. And the great part about bodybuilding is when you start to get to the point where you can stay leaner longer, okay? Like in the beginning, it's bulking, it's trying to put on mass, it's eating to a point that's very uncomfortable. You're force feeding yourself. It's not, if you want to look like someone that's 200 pounds and you're 175 pounds, you have to already be eating like someone that's 200 pounds. That's not comfortable. It takes a long time to get used to. So, the diet's number one, and people don't understand. A lot of these guys looking for this next best thing or the newest supplement, what they don't understand is what bodybuilders go through. I took a plane from South Carolina to Las Vegas. I had my food packed in my bag. I had chicken. I had, I don't know how it didn't get confiscated, but I had a thing of protein powder. I had single packs of almonds and walnut mix. I had a protein shaker cup. I had, a couple protein bars in case I got in a jam. I'm sitting in an airport in the waiting area to board the plane, and I'm sitting right across from like a Cinnabon place, and I'm smelling this the whole time. And you know what I'm doing? I'm eating my freaking chicken. And everybody's looking over like, what is this guy doing, But you don't give a shit because you don't base your identity on what anybody else thinks. You live in a world that you want to live in a world that you create, in a world that you think is cool. That's number one. That's bodybuilding. Then supplements.
Dieting is number one. Diet teaches you self-discipline. When you go on a diet, you have to be both the drill instructor and the recruit. You have to tell yourself what to do, and you have to make sure you stick with that schedule. And the diet works both ways. You've got a diet to gain weight, and you've got a diet to lose weight. I started out at 130 pounds. That meant I had to eat 6 meals a day, every day for a long time to put on weight. That's hard to do when you're not a big eater. So the diet works both ways. Yes, it's hard to diet on low calories. It's also hard to diet on high calories. It's something that's uncomfortable to do both ways. But what is uncomfortable teaches you self-discipline. It teaches you how to power through the bad times so you can get the end result that you're after. And the end result that you're after is what John Doe talks about in his new book, The John Doe Bodybuilding Bible, Ultimate Physique Transformation, Ultimate Physique Machine. What do we call it? The John Doe Bodybuilding Bible.
Ultimate Physique Transformation.
Ultimate Physique Transformation. Yeah. And John Doe actually is the guy I go to when I need to get shredded. He's the guy I go to give me my diet because, to be honest, it's a lot easier when somebody else is telling you what to do, telling you exactly what to do. It's fun to learn about yourself. It's fun to go through that process, but it took me years. It took me 7, 8, 9 years before I started even looking good. And I followed John Doe's diet for 10, 12 weeks, and I was ripped to shreds. So yes, it's great to learn about yourself. It's also great if you have somebody who has been there and done that, and they know about it, and they can just show you the way. I wish I had a resource like that, because when I started, I was looking at bullshit online that wasn't really the truth. It was not what got results. And I know for a fact that John Doe, his diet, his workout routine gets results because I've been on the diets and I've gotten ripped to shreds like a statue following the methods laid out in the upcoming book, The John Doe Bodybuilding Bible.
Yeah, as far as the new book goes, the reason that I was... the reason I wanted to write it was the first book I wrote, Becoming the Bull, was pretty much a beginner to seasoned way to train, all right? And the book pretty much goes in order from this is where I started, this maybe is a good way for you to start, to a little bit heavier eating and what should I eat? And it's not all skinless chicken and rice. I come right out in that book and say, look, man, it's freaking calories. I mean, when I was in high school and I wanted to get muscle, I would eat my bagged lunch, okay, that my mom packed for me for school. I would bring a can of tuna fish, all right, for my protein. And I would drain the tuna fish can right there in the fucking cafeteria. I got everybody in high school looking at me, what is this guy doing, draining a can of tuna fish? He's crazy. Then after I did that, I went through the school lunch line. I got 2 deli sandwiches, probably 4 or 5 cartons of chocolate milk, and this giant chocolate chip cookie. And I did that every freaking day for lunch, every day. And did not get fat. Did not get fat. But back to the new book. Okay, so that was the first book, all right? Great guide for beginners. Great guide for someone that just wants to have maybe a refreshed view of building your body, or maybe need to go back to the basics. Sometimes we do have to go back to the basics. We get too far away from what works. I started feeling like, based on a lot of emails I got and a lot of comments, there was a niche that is not being covered. And that niche is middle-aged people are working harder to take their health back than people that are half their age now. There's people in their 30s, 40s, 50s. I'm going to say probably 30 to 60 age group, the most common age group that I get. And this is what they want to know about, okay? And a lot of these guys, they're seasoned gym guys. So one day I'm on the phone. I was talking to a good friend of mine. He's 44 years old. And we were talking about, okay, the days of bulking up and gaining 20 or 30 pounds and then losing 20 pounds and gaining and losing, those days are over. And maybe you're not really doing a bodybuilding competition, but how do you stay motivated? How do you stay motivated? So I felt like that was kind of an untouched area, and there was issues such as hormone replacement therapy that a lot of guys, quite frankly, need. That's the first chapter in the book, is understanding your hormones and in blood work. If that's not right, I don't give a shit what you do. So that's number one. We cut right through the bullshit in the JDB Bible, straight to the point. It's different workout tactics, because this is what the magazines won't tell you, all right? If some guy, which is mostly is a ghost writer anyway, it's not even a guy's routine or his diet in a magazine, but regardless, if that's not his diet every day, he cannot explain to you what his diet is every day, because it wouldn't look nice, neat, and pretty. It would literally take that entire publication to explain to you how he diets and how he trains. It's never the same. But once you learn how to eat, you understand that, okay, you know what? It might not be 8 ounces of chicken at 12 noon, but I can do, 6 ounces of tilapia and, 8 ounces of brown rice, maybe white rice. If you're someone that is naturally lower hypo, or you go hypo easier, then maybe you need something a little bit quicker. Maybe you need grits, white rice, whatever. This book explains all of those aspects of nutrition, all of those different angles, all the angles that those publications and online things leave out. This book gives you the education. It's not just here it is, do it, and here's your diet and your training program. It is a myriad of training programs, diets, and tactics, okay? How to get ripped, how to get more ripped than ripped if you're stalling at this point. Also, what is realistic? We talk about what's realistic. I talk about what's realistic. The standard of health and fitness nowadays is so over-exaggerated. Those guys you see in the covers of those magazines that are, 5-6% body fat with a big smile on their face, yeah, they're not really happy, okay? It is a picture. It is a pipe dream, a fallacy that the industry is painting for you, so you continue to buy into the bullshit, to be honest with you. This book takes away all of that, all right? So, I'm an old school bodybuilding fan at heart. Everyone says they want the old school look back, the old school look back. Let's start bringing it back. Let's get away from all this crap and searching for the next best XYZ product, and let's start doing what really works and get back to hard work, smart training, and really just giving you guys the education. That's what the new book is. It's the education, and it's perfect for somebody who is trying to take their health back, or somebody who's maybe approaching their 30s. They don't know how to go about getting on hormone replacement therapy. A lot of guys think it's a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. There's this stigma around it like it's such a bad thing, and it's not. It's no different than a woman who gets put on progesterone after menopause. So, yeah, that's the book, pretty much, a brief summary of it.
Yeah, you said something I liked. You said something about going back to basics. And the reason we go back to basics is because the basics are the only thing that work. And when we stray too far from the basics, we don't get the results we want. So there's a reason we always go back to the basics. The basics are what work. When you understand the basics, when you have a core idea of what the basics are, then you can branch out and do these other things.
Right.
But you always have to follow the basics. And you said something else that I found very interesting. You said, you see the guys on the cover of magazines looking ripped and shredded. What you don't see is the 12 weeks beforehand where they were dieting, they were stressed out, they were mad, they were angry, they were all of these things. You see only the end product. And we show you in the John Doe Bodybuilding Bible, John Doe shows you that whole process so you can have an idea, so you can actually have the knowledge of what it really takes to get there, because you don't just snap your fingers and get ripped. It's work. And you've got to experience that work. You've got to experience the hardships of the diet. You've got to experience the hardships of the low calories so you can experience that high. Without the lows, you are never going to experience the highs. And the more dedicated you are to putting in that time, putting in your dues, the better your physique is going to be. The more dedicated you are, the more likely you're going to be able to walk around looking like John Doe Bodybuilding and his Slayer phone
that he should have turned down. All right. Sorry.
The John Doe Bodybuilding Bible. Buy it if you want to look like John Doe, if you want to look like me, or if you want to look like you, if you want to look like the best version of you, the strongest, leanest, veiniest, cockiest, whatever you want. If you want to look like the best version of you, buy the John Doe Bodybuilding Bible when it comes out. We'll keep you informed. John Doe, thanks for coming on the show.
No problem. Appreciate it.